Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. 91 years ago today, in 1931, an English missionary died of untreated gallstones in the Belgian Congo. C.T.Studd was a young man who had the world at his feet. He had a privileged background. He had gone to Eton College, where he was captain of the cricket team. He went to Cambridge and he became an international batsman, played cricket for England. In fact, he was the last batsman left at the crease in the famous Ashes test match against Australia at the Oval in 1882. You've probably heard about the Ashes. Every time England play a test series against Australia, it's called the Ashes. Well, that all goes back to that match in 1882. It was the first cricket match that England ever lost at home. And the Sporting Times produced the next day an obituary that said, "In affectionate remembrance of English cricket, which died at the Oval 29th of August 1882, deeply lamented by a large circle of sorrowing friends and acquaintances, R.I.P. And B, the body will be cremated and the ashes taken to Australia." And then somebody in Australia came up with the idea of getting this little urn with some ashes in it. And that's what they've been playing cricket for ever since. Well, C.T.Studd was the last batsman left at the crease. Whenever there was him and this other guy, they just needed 10 more runs to win the match, but the other guy got out and C.T.Studd was left there. He was the only English cricketer of that day that came away with any honour from the most famous cricket match possibly in history. Well, 2 years later, Dwight Moody visited Britain, and Moody went and spoke at Cambridge, and Studd was one of 7 young men who volunteered as a result of hearing Dwight L. Moody preaching. They volunteered to go as missionaries to China with Hudson Taylor's China Inland Mission. And there were 7 young men volunteered, and they were known as the Cambridge 7. And it's hard for us at this point, all these years later, to understand what an incredible impact that had on young people, because these were heroes. These were the people they read about in their comic books. I mean, it was like the captain of the England football team and the England rugby team and everything else all going off as missionaries today. That's the kind of impact that it had. And so they actually they were greatly increased interest in what was happening in China. And over the next 15 years, 800 more young people volunteered and went as missionaries to China with the China Inland Mission. Now, C.T.Studd spent the rest of his life serving as a missionary in China, then in India, and then in Congo. He founded WEC, W-E-C, the Worldwide Evangelization for Christ, and also that birthed the CLC, the Christian Literature Crusade, 2 very important missionary organizations over the years. Now, C.T.Studd was famous for some of his quotes. He once said, "Only one life, 'twill soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last." He also said this, "If Jesus Christ be God and died for me, then no sacrifice can be too great for me to make for him." And perhaps his most famous saying was, "Some wish to live within the sound of a chapel bell. I want to run a rescue shop within a yard of hell." Well, at the end of his life, after nearly 50 years on the mission field, C.T.Studd died in service for Christ. But over his lifetime, he had inspired hundreds, if not thousands, of young people, not just to go as missionaries, but to give their lives to Jesus, to get involved in their local churches and everything else. It'd be very hard indeed to calculate the enormous spiritual impact that came about through this one young man who had the world at his feet and instead chose to follow Jesus. I pray there's a generation of young people today who have great opportunities. Some of them have greater opportunities than we ever imagined when we were younger in our lifetimes. But I pray they will choose Jesus as the best of all. And I pray that God will raise up more young men like C.T.Studd that will have an incredible impact for the gospel down through the years ahead. In Jesus' name. Thank you for joining us for this Take 5. Join us again next time for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.